This is Curtis coming at you from Ace Parade Studios, once again covering the 2021 NFL season. Going to get into Week 8, and the first team I'm going to work on is my Dolphins. Now, I cover the Bills, I cover Allen. I'm going to give you guys your own time because I think there's a lot to really look into that tape that I need to really study out before I give you all a proper evaluation. Very tough game, very tight game. Both teams really showed a lot. It was a very physical game. So I want to give congratulations to the Bills, the Buffalo Bills fans. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to have your time, focus on you. But first off, right off the bat, I'm just going to get with my Dolphins and dig into that first. Okay, so I just finished Suit Hustle. And I put it out. It's a documentary. I'm going to do a wrap-up with that. I really wanted to make it much longer and cover many more things, the many hustles that are going on. But I decided to focus on one particular hustle, and that was the Shane Gailey Tua hustle. So I'm going to do a wrap-up with that and kind of delineate what was in that tape, what was in the video, and kind of explain it more and flesh it out. So that's my two preambles. Now I'm going to dig right into the game. You can see this team is not quitting on Flores. This defense, it can provide some stout run defense, quality coverage. It's a pretty good defense. And if you notice, they finally understood that running the football, while it's not flashy, it buys time for your defense to be on the bench and gives them rest. And this really paid dividends. This is why the Dolphins defense, one of the reasons why it was so stout so late into the game. But if you go back and look at their first matchup, the Dolphins defense was pretty stout as well. Things didn't really turn around until the third quarter. So the talk of this defense being terrible, I think, is a misnomer. They lack some things. There's some lacking here. Pass rush being a very big piece. I think the missing of Baker really hurt. But honestly, his run defense, I think that would have been a factor as well. There was some pretty good run defense from all the players that filled in for him. But the pass rush aspect was missed. You know, people are going to want to really kind of bring this to Tua, but it was like an offensive thing. And it's clear, as I said in Suit Hustle, that Shane Gailey, even as Flores said, he says, this was a move I had to make for the future of the team and for the offense. Despite what you might think, despite what you're told, Shane Gailey and Steve Marshall made a very big difference. I don't have time to dig into that. I've kind of dug into it a little bit, but maybe one day we'll get into it. Huge difference. And you can see today, you never saw, despite being a younger team, despite you being a more complicated offense, you never saw stuff like this. And this goes back to, and it's not to get angry at the new OCs, because, you know, I spoke about it in his Brian Flores, a coach cutter. I spoke about it in the Ross effect. And I just did a Suit Hustle to show you that these coaches have been thrust into this role. It's not like they chose to do it. It's not like Flores even wanted it. He can't find anybody else. And now we are suffering heavy. All those articles saying, oh, it's going to be better for Tua. It's going to be better for the Dolphins to get rid of Gailey. He's old and washed up. A load of BS. And you're feeling it today. Now, you want to go about Tua? Okay. Ryan Tannehill, who has a more complete offense, played as poorly, quote unquote, as Tua. Roethlisberger, despite having an outstanding defensive day, played worse or as worse as Tua. And even Mahomes struggled. So this is a very good defense, very good defense. And you can see all day, the calls by the Miami Dolphins, if it wasn't cheesy RPOs, which, yes, those things are nice as add-ins, but you cannot live off of it. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not going to dig into that. But it was very one-dimensional. There wasn't really much creativity. There wasn't much feel. And there was so many illegal procedure penalties. This shows that this offensive staff is not preparing the players. If you're going to start making all this movement, you had to see these players making mistakes and be clear that they're capable of doing before you put it on the field. But they weren't. So again, you'll want to say, oh, do it. It's way more than that. You know, you add in, check every time they were under center. They ran the ball, I think 6 plays and had 1 play action. This is predictability. There's very little competency. There's very little originality, panache, flair, whatever you want to call it. You go back and watch. Again, Gailey, he called up some wild plays last year that got the Dolphins cheap, easy touchdowns. This group struggles to do it, and they do not have a feel. To their credit, there was some nice stuff early on with the RPOs, and they ran the ball consistently. But this, even saw on the third down, critical third down, and they would run a draw right into it. Why wasn't the timeout called? Why was that play called? Just very, very poor stuff. You know, the lack of preparation is going to say, oh, it's Brian Flores again. Well, yeah, it is. That's true. But why? Gailey would have been here. This never would have happened. But Suit Hustle shows you why all this is. You know, and you tack that on. You know, if you watch Suit Hustle and you watch Brian Flores, a coach cutter, and the Ross effect, all of them together are creating a narrative. I'm going to work to drill that in even more. Because I think a lot of Fin fans don't really fully understand, you know, the ramifications of putting Tua in early and the fallout from that point. So, another obvious problem, before you can blame Tua, is the offensive line. Now, Eichenberg is playing pretty admirably, but to me, from what I'm seeing, he's not a tackle. His arm's a little short. He lacks a little bit of power. He's been beaten a lot, and he looks a lot like Jackson did, where he's starting to struggle, starting to hold. Problem is, we have too many guards on this team. Jackson is playing guard. And you say, oh, well, Jackson really wasn't a problem. I say, no, he really wasn't. But check his assignments. He was always helping the center. I think just about every play, he was either helping somebody or getting help. Very rarely was he left on his own. And if you're a left guard, especially if you're the 18th overall pick, you're expected to block on your own, and help is you're supposed to be on your own. The whole left side should be on their own most time, except for some chips from the tight end and then occasionally maybe some help from the back. But that's not the way it is. Because Eichenberg should have been left guard, and they should have had a real legitimate left tackle out there. But Jackson, he's been brought inside, protected. Eichenberg's out of play, and Robert Hunt is continually struggling. It's not really a physical thing. It's a mental. He misses switches. He really doesn't see his assignments sometimes. You know, you could talk about Jesse Davis, but Jesse Davis has got a bad knee, and he's a guard too. He's another guy left out on his own who, to the casual fan and the announcers, will lay the blame at his feet. But the reality is, if I put Tua at right tackle and he was getting beat, you wouldn't be like, that's crazy. It's not the same degree, but it sort of is. When Davis was playing left guard, you didn't hear his name called. He was very successful. This team is loaded with guards and no tackles. That's the problem. This offensive line is pretty poor because it's been built poorly. So Miami needs more tackles. And this is why you can't lay it. Tua had that nice 4th and 6 play. There was a couple where he threw tight windows. There's a few missed pass plays, but Allen had missed passes. This kid's on his 13th or 14th game. If this was a competent offensive line, a competent offensive staff, he would be magnified. Again, not saying elite, but what we're seeing here is an illusion. The illusion is that, oh, this guy's at fault, this guy's at fault. But the reality is the construction, the design, the application, the decisions, all are putting people in position to have their skill sets reduced rather than magnified. And that's poor coaching, and that's poor building by the GM. So this was also a very sloppy game. Both teams had 9 penalties. The refs were kind of inconsistent. There was some bad calls for the Bills. There was bad calls for the Dolphins. Very sloppy game. But really, there was like 3 or 4 critical illegal procedure calls, and that's all on the Dolphins. Time of possession going to the second half was 18 minutes to 11. Score was super tight and super low. It was a 3-0 or 3-3. I can't remember. I should have wrote it down. Dolphins come out and they wet the bed. The illegal procedure destroyed that drive, which would have been a critical drive. If they could have continued to tack on this time of possession, continued to tack on snaps for this defense, it could have begun to break them. But there was the missed field goal. There was the Gesicki snap where it hit him when they could have picked up points. This was a sloppy game, but you really can't fault the defense. Yeah, at the end it was 2 3rd and longs and Beasley beat us, but they've been doing it to everybody. This is a high-powered offense. Our run game, I mean, if it wasn't for Allen, they would have had no rushing stats. So you got to give credit to the Dolphins here defensively. And that leads back to Flores. They say, well, he's the head coach. Again, Caldwell was here to play that role on offense. Gone. Gailey was here. Things were building. There was chemistry between Fitz, Gailey, Flores, and Tua. And as Suit Hustle says, there was a move made that had nothing to do with football. It had to do with something, selling Tua shirts or a pressure of Herbert and Burrow, and they forced Tua in without Gailey, and then they kind of forced Gailey out. He could have stayed, but who would stay if you're going to get calls like that? If you're going to be, gutted and turned into a eunuch? No one's staying for that. So the defense played really well. Baker missed 2 of 21 for 39, 205, 1 interception. But this kid was, how many shotguns draws are you going to run? There was literally no creativity. You didn't see any play designs that attacked the deep middle of the defense, forcing them through scheme and through play calls into pressure. It just wasn't there. And a lot of that problem is they just can't protect long enough. Parker, 8 for 11, 85 yards. He had a good day. He's missed. He's inconsistent. He's going to always be inconsistent. But at the right price, this guy's a good guy to have on your team as maybe your 3rd guy. You pay him a little bit extra. He comes in and out, but he provides. But you need somebody else. But Waddle, who you paid 2 draft picks for, the 6th overall, and now it looks like the 2nd overall pick in the draft at this point. That's insanity to pay that much for a receiver. Insanity. He was 4 for 29 and 12 targets with only 4 receptions. They don't know how to get this guy the ball. They don't know what to do with this guy. They can't get him open. And again, it's not their fault. It's not their fault. They're way over the head, these OCs. This whole offense is way over its head. But it wouldn't have been like that if Gailey was still here. Wilkins, big piece to this team. He's coming on week after week. 6 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, the deflection. Yeah, you look at last year, takes time. This is a good piece, and his kid's coming together. It's a shame. It's a shame, the potential. And it was interrupted. Again, if you've been watching me for a while, you understand. If you haven't, go back, check my Suit Hustle podcast. Is Brian Flores a coach cutter? If you want the grand scheme, the macro of the situation, You can check the Ross effect with Brian Flores. Coaching is the most important, in all sports, coaching is the most important in football. It's such a complex sport. It's so demanding on the mental aspects. There's so much nuance. This offense is struggling. A, the staff is green, way over their head, but they've been forced into this role. B, you have a young quarterback who's put in too early. This is his real rookie season. If you really understand what this kid was going through last year. Again, this doesn't excuse this or that, or validate this or that, or say he's going to be elite or star, whatever the case you want to say. The reality is the framework, the setup for this kid has been screwed up. And then it's the offensive line. A disaster. They've sunk so many assets into this offensive line, and it's a disaster. There's no real tackles on this team. There are no tackles. You've spent so much, and maybe Eichenberg. But you can, for me, from when I watch, left guard. Left guard is where he would be at his best. But then this would mean you have to admit Jackson should be on the bench and getting marination. And who else are you going to fill that role this year? So, there was opportunities. Waddle didn't come out of his break on that drive in the end zone. Again, I talked about it. The poor snap, legal procedures, missed field goals. But if you really have context, you take the context of this team. The staff has been gutted by no fault of the coach. This team has been poorly built as far as the offensive side. Given what's really behind what's going on with this team, in the context of it, they're playing their best. It's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. But you had Gale, you had Marshall, you had the picks. You chose to go a different route in the draft and free agency. And that goes back to Greer. Everything goes back to Chris Greer. He's a suit. He's a backstabbing suit, and he's incompetent. I don't like to say that, but after doing suit hustle, what was done to Gailey in the media, good man, it's not fair. What's been done to Tua and Fitzpatrick, not fair. And even Brian Flores, who had the weight of the world from the moment he took this job in this den of snakes, this pit. He came in, they gutted the team, and he had questions up the yin-yang, problems up the yin-yang, and he brought this team to the end of the year to have a spectacular win against the Patriots and to stick to them. And then to somehow talk Gailey to come here. And then he's 3-3, and the suits come in, and for all evidence, force him to not make a good football decision. And everything's been bad since then. Or you could say, oh, well, they went 10-6. Yeah, they went 10-6 despite. Because Tua himself, he says, I couldn't run, I couldn't cut, I couldn't throw receivers. Even his own father's like, after 2 passes, they're going to put you, just make you a starter? Suit hustle. Some people didn't quite fully get the pieces on it. I'm going to wrap that up. But we're here because a suit tell Warriors what to do. So I think it sucks we lost, but I give these players and this staff credit because they gave their all. And on a certain side of the ball and with a certain set of the staff, it wasn't good enough because they're in way over their head. So this is Curtis. Thank you for staying to the end. Really, you got to understand there's your team. That your team is Don Shula, Dan Marino, Zach Thomas, Bonaconte, Brian Cox, all the good coaches that we've had over the years who've given blood and time for this franchise. Owners, GMs, the suits. This is not the team. I know you can get frustrated. You get tired of this team. But this has been a hostile takeover of a foreign entity. The spirit of the good people and the good players is being held hostage. Our only hope is Ross is not behind the suit hustle last year. That Dan Marino has his ear. And somehow Ross can stand up and love this team, not trade for Watson, and dump Greer and the staff and bring in somebody of quality to run the show. Ross is our last hope. And for those of you who say, well, when he sells the team, a lot of commenters told me Bruce Beal is in line of succession. Ross is like, he's known him for years. It's like, we're going to get Ross 2.0. This could be a great thing if Ross does the right thing. It could be a bad thing if he doesn't. So anyway, this is Curtis. Thank you for staying to the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Comments mean the most. I really do. I learned so much from all you people. I mean, I got people from 1966 telling me stuff I never even knew. I got new fans giving me different perspectives, different ideas. I really appreciate that. I'm really about building a better evaluation, growing and giving better information, because that's really what it's all about. So please comment. Appreciate that. Subscribes and likes help me with the Google overlords, keep me in business. As I said, this wasn't my thing, man. I was not into it. My wife talked me into it. I got the offer. Really uncertain about it, but I enjoy it now. I truly enjoy it. And it starts to build like an itch in me to do it, which I never thought was possible. Hate cameras. I used to think they'd steal your soul. Anyway, just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, aspread.com, the best online sportsbook out there. They're a phenomenal company. They're phenomenal owners. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. They want to let you know with the world-class software, you can get on the action with friends, family, and coworkers as a local bookie. They're absolutely a company of integrity. They absolutely put their customers first. I don't know much about any of the sports betting stuff. I'm too cheap German. But I see the comments. I see who they are. Phenomenal company. And you too, you commenters, you viewers, you're fantastic. Whatever teams, I just get such great vibes from all of you. So I appreciate the two of you. Sucks we're now in the hole, and we got a great pick that's going to be going to the Eagles. One more week. Let's see what goes on. Just pray no Watson. Pray Ross. Ross can be the hero. Ross, you could be the hero. This is Curtis. Thank you for staying to the end. Catch you next time. Be well and go Fins.